Okay, there are some more settings involved in warping that can make it sound better. So let's go back to this beat here. Okay, so we have warp turned on. We know what the tempo is. We've warped it a little bit. Now, if I go to this right here where it says beats, this is our warp mode. What this is you're going to have slightly different algorithms based on what you're warping. Okay? So here it's saying we're warping a beat. And what it's going to try to do in a beat is preserve the transients, that's the attacks of notes. And when it has to do something weird, it's going to try to do it in between the transients, meaning there's not a lot of sustained sounds, right? Um, so it's going to sacrifice sustained sounds for the beats, the transients, when it has to. If we wanted to say no, this is not a beat, this is a long held tone, then we would change this to tones, right? So I'm actually going to leave this on beats, but let's go to something like, let's actually go to this vocal part right here. I know I said I wasn't going to play much of this vocal, but I am. Let's go to, yeah, what the heck, let's just do this. So let's go to this part right here. Let's loop that. Let me zoom out here a little bit.
Do you need
Oh, that's not very much. Let's do more. Let's loop that.
do you need them to be? Do you need them to be?
Okay, so let's say right here at the end of this phrase, I want this last note to sustain all through this part. So I'm going to put a warp marker here to lock it down, and then I'm going to put a warp marker somewhere in the middle and drag it out. Okay, so now I want this to sustain. Okay, now I can see by the way that waveform kind of broke apart that this is going to sound a little glitchy.
Do you need them to be? Do you need them to be?
Okay, cool. It actually didn't get very glitchy. It sounds weird, but it's not very glitchy. But let's go back to that. And let's look at the warping that we're doing. If I put it on beats, let's hear what it sounds like.
Do you need them to be?
Right now it's glitched out pretty bad because it's trying to preserve accents. It's just the wrong warp mode for this kind of thing. If I put it on tones, it'll probably work pretty well.
Do you need them to be? Do you?
Right, so now it's sounding pretty good because it's tones. I can also say texture. Texture is good for like a pad or something like that. I don't think it's going to be great for this.
Do you need them to be?
Yeah, got a little bit glitchy. Repitch is kind of a fun one. Repitch basically means we're going to treat this like a vinyl record, right? So as we stretch things apart, we're going to slow down the record, and that means the pitch is going to go down with it, right? So everything in live is designed to prevent this from happening, right? Normally, when you slow something down, the pitch goes down. When you speed it up, the pitch goes up, like the chipmunks. Live is designed to not do that, right? It's not going to adjust the pitch when it slows things down or speed things up. But this one way is a way that you could say, no, actually do that. So if you want to do that, this is how you would do it.
Do you need them to be? Do you?
Not very useful for us in this case. Okay, and then complex and complex pro are the real meaty ones. That's kind of saying everything. If you're warping like a whole track, like a whole mixed track, like we did a minute ago, you would want to put it on complex or complex pro. The main difference here is that complex pro is going to use a ton of your CPU. Okay, it's going to be crunching. It's going to be crunching a lot of numbers really fast. So if you're doing like 50 tracks, don't put them all on complex pro because you're going to crash Ableton. Okay, use complex pro if you've got one or two tracks going. And you want to warp them as best as possible. So if I put it on Complex Pro,
Do you need them to be?
It's going to sound pretty good. But I probably shouldn't leave this on Complex Pro because it's unnecessary. Tones is going to get about the same sound.
Do you need them to be?
So that's just fine. Now, if I actually was going to do this, I'd do it a little bit differently. Let's pull that back and let's actually put a warp marker right there and there. And then put this one maybe right in the middle. So I want to get that pitch swoop out of there.
Do you need them to be?
Okay, that's better. Let's maybe split the difference here a little bit.
Do you need them to be? Do you need them to be?
I have that little swoop and pitch in his voice.
Do you need them to be?
Okay, that's better. What we're doing here is really kind of inhumane, the way that we're stretching his voice in a way that a voice wouldn't do, but it can work. If we wanted to put this into a whole mix, we might be able to hide the kind of glitchy stuff. But those are your warp modes. So be sure and set when you're doing warping, especially when you're doing something kind of extreme, like pulling something really far apart, be sure you're using the right warp mode. It'll sound much, much better.